Okay, so we're ready. Can you say your names? I'm Katarina.
Tony.
Chris.
Jane.
Mel.
Malka.
Tony.
China.
David.
Tass. Terry.
Okay, I can't see on them. You can't put it anywhere else, can you?
Well, we can have the back of you or the profile of you if you want.
Good, that's better, I can see if you want. Well, for the newbies, I'll go through the spiel again. Can't teach you anything, can't tell you anything. That thing's over there's re-echoing on me. Give us a... Give me a look at it.
You want me to stop?
Yeah, better. See how that goes. Yeah. Can't teach you anything and I can't tell you anything. All we do is point toward and ask you to look to where we're pointing to see for yourself. Because that's the most necessary thing all about it, to see for yourself. Because no matter what you believe, nobody's ever going to give it to you. And nobody's going to tell you what to do or what not to do, though they do. Purely and simply because none of these, nobody can. What we point out is not what they call non-duality in Hinduism. Non-duality, Sat Chidananda, Nama Rupa. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is loving to be, or they call it bliss, which people get locked in the idea of bliss and lose sight of it. So anyone who is not existing right now, and you realise, no, I'm existing, anyone who is not conscious right now, you realise I'm conscious, anyone who's not happy to be right now. So you already are that. But we've lost sight of that, or never questioned it and taken on what our parents, school, society and all the world around us have been telling us, that we're a separate entity, a person. But have a look at that person, the word person. Where does that come from? You realise it comes from persona, the mask, in Latin or Greek, I forget, doesn't matter. Latin. A mask. And that's what I'm pointing out. We've got this mask of concepts on ourselves. Instead of realising and recognising our true nature, we've got this mask of concepts on, and we've taken ourselves to be this person, this separate entity, this individual. It's not so. It never was so. In Hinduism they call it Sat Chit Ananda, and the last three, that's Nama Rupa, name and form. And the names we put ourselves and the shape and form our bodies are the name and form. And they say the name and form is Maya. It's illusion. So how can one illusion tell another illusion anything? It's impossible. That's why I can't teach you anything, I can't tell you anything. Another way I put it, I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm not speaking to that body, mind, entity you believe yourself to be. I'm speaking to that I am, that I am. And each one and every one of you knows I am. That's the primary sound or the primary word. Just to this and nothing else. I'm not speaking anything else other than that. So if you hear something you don't like and think I'm abusing you or dirty on you or something like that, that's not the personal thing I'm talking about. Now the person, if you believe you are a person, you might take it on board. Or you might be too shy to speak or say something or answer or anything. So, and you look at all the basic religions, they're all based on this same thing. The non-dual, one without a second. But we lose sight of that. Different traditions and different religions call it God or higher power, and they've got different names for it, thousands of different names for the same in God. But it tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Everything was made by Him, by the Word. There's nothing made that was made without the Word. Have a look at that. All the names and forms you're seeing around you, the trees of flowers, you've got words or labels on. And you've got the word or label on yourself. But the word is not the real. The word is not the thing. Realise that every word you've ever spoken or ever liked to speak has been learnt. It's been picked up along the way. School, society, your parents first put the words on you. But the word is not the real, it's not the thing. Have a look at that. Take the word water. Can you drink the word? Can you swim in the word? Will you drown in the word? You can't. Does the word fire burn your mouth if you speak it? Do you cook with the word? Can you heat yourself with it? You can't. So when you start looking at this I or me, this mental conceptual image you've got about yourself, made up of words, go through it and really investigate it. And we say the false cannot stand up to investigation. All these erroneous or false beliefs we've taken on board, when you investigate them, they must fall apart. Because you see, they don't have any actuality whatsoever of themselves. So the word's not the thing, and realise that. When did you begin? You'll say, I was born. But can any one of you actually remember your birth? Go back as far as you can into your memory and see if you can actually remember your birth. And you'll realise then you can only remember back to when you first learned words. Before that you don't remember. So you can't remember your birth, yet you'll say, I was born. And believe it. And we've taken on this body-mind entity, we believe ourselves to be, a separate entity, to be the individual or the person. We'll have a look at it and see, go back to your so-called beginning. Go back as far as your father and your mother. You can go back as far as you like if you want to investigate it, look into it. Going back as far as your father and your mother, that pattern you call your father, that pattern of energy, vibrating intelligence energy, which formed by the innate intelligence energy that you are, the essence of the food, prana, the chi, the prana and the food, the air, enable in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye. You've got to put it under a microscope to even realise it's there. And the same in your mother, that animating life essence, patterning, shaping and form your mother, that intelligence energy, enabled in that pattern, an uterus. It knew what to do. A little microscopic particle couldn't see. It suffused with intelligence, it knew what to do. And the sperm, another particle suffused with that intelligence, it knew what to do. It swam to the ovum. Put it under a microscope and you'll see it has the capacity of moving around and swimming. And it knew where to swim to the ovum and to penetrate the ovum. And when those two came together, what happened? That cell doubled and redoubled through the innate intelligence energy in it, the activity of knowing, the life essence or the godliness, if you like to use that term. Doubled that cell, doubled it again, and the little embryo and the little fetus began to form. Yes, seeing it suffused that wondrous intelligence that could form the bones, the sinews, the heart, the lungs, and all the essence that you are. And the wondrous innate intelligence or godliness, if you like to use. I don't use the term God here because you can get confused with that term. Each of you and every one of you come from a different tradition. Some of you might be atheists. Some of you are agnostics. Some of you might be Christian, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Sikhs, whatever other, Muslim, whatever other religions are. And each of you will have a different term for God, different label. So that's why you get confused. But I tell you, it's the one essence, the same one, what I call, for want of a better term, intelligence energy, that's patterning, shaping and forming all this manifestation. I use the term intelligence energy, but that's not it either. It's just a label, another label we put on, another word, concept. We put labels on everything. Intelligence is knowing. Anyone who is not knowing right now, that's another name for it. And energy is an activity, movement. So intelligence is energy, the activity of knowing. Anyone who is not knowing in this room right now. There's a pure knowing there, and even if you're saying, no, I don't know, there must be a knowing there to say that. So you realise you're not away from this knowing at all. So that knowing is an activity. It's the ing on it gives us something that's happening right now. Like the seeing, the hearing, the tasting, the touching, the smelling. All those things, all those activities are taking place right now in that pattern you call you. Now the pattern is the form through which they express. And each pattern is a unique expression of those forms. A unique expression. There's no two patterns the same. Even though twins might similar, they are not exactly the same. So those expressions, pattern, shapes, and forms we take to be real are what, if they weren't there, what are you going to express through? In the pure intelligence energy, there's the basic essence of all this manifestation is stillness, space, the emptiness. And Buddha told you that a couple of thousand years ago when he called it a cognising emptiness. Not that we are cognising the emptiness, but the emptiness itself that's living, expressing, forming all these patterns, that's exposing, is the life essence of you, is cognising. It's the emptiness or that life essence that's doing the cognising. The cognising emptiness. And he made the statement then that emptiness is form. Pointing out as that cognising, that vibrating pattern that's out there, that's formed this pattern, that's that emptiness that's forming it. And he turned it round the other way and said, look at it, you'll see that the form, the pattern shape, you, me, and everything else in it, all the forms can be nothing other than that emptiness. Break it all down, look at it and look into it and you'll see. Go right into it, you can break yourself down into the no-thingness, in the emptiness, into the silence, into the stillness. But you're not going to stay there. You don't want to stay there. Come back into it. It's not about coming back. Be in the livingness, the actuality you are now. But don't take on the erroneous conceptual belief that you're not good enough, you're fearful, the limiting aspects we put upon ourselves. Putting ourselves in a conceptual image made of names, forms, the labels and forms we put upon ourselves, our boundaries. So we learn words, and in the beginning was the word. And you don't learn words till you're about two and a half, when the capacity of reasoning develops in you. Before that, when you were forming in the womb, you didn't have any words. For the first 2 years of your life, when you came out, you didn't have any words. But you were living then without the word. Naturally, effortlessly and spontaneously. And about two and a half, when the capacity of reasoning developed, you started to learn words. And realise that every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up along the way. Because you weren't born with it. And you could be learning new words to this day. There's plenty of words in the dictionary we haven't taken on the meaning of yet, personally, but they've been somewhere along the way they've been formed and people have understood them and make a dictionary out of them. So we're still learning words to this day. I'm forgetting a lot of words. You might be too. A lot of the words we have learned we forget. But the word is not the real. That's the important thing. We take the word to be real. The word's not the real, it's just a label we put on things. And the Mahavakya, the great mantra, is I am that. And you already know that in the language. You know innately that you are. That everything is that. Because you say, that's a chair, that's a carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's you, that's me. It's all that you put labels on. Put the word on them, then you put the label on when you start to reason. Parents fussing around me and I learn words like I and me. And I start to learn a few more words and I don't, well, I am Bob. They tell you I'm Bob. I'm a good boy or I'm not so good. I'm happy or I'm sad or I'm unhappy when these things come along. And I've got continually picking up words along the way and taking the word to be real. When I went back to, when I said it's all intelligence energy, so instead of using the term God, have a look out there. When I'm talking about intelligence, I'm not talking about your intellect. Because there are different degrees of intellect. Some of you are a lot smarter than this I'll ever be. Some of you are not quite so smart. That's an intellectual knowing or smartness. I'm take your leaf from nature. Out in nature, you'll see that galaxies are forming out there. Planets and stars moving around. Earth rolling around the sun. Seasons coming and going. Tides coming in and out. Trees and flowers and volcanoes erupting and tsunamis coming. It's all that intelligence energy patterning, shaping and forming it all. So it is the same intelligence. Have a look at it. That's breathing you right now. It's beating your heart. It's growing your hair in your fingernails. It's digesting your food. What are you doing about that? You're thinking about your next breath or your next heartbeat or what the food's being digested or anything else that's going on in the body, the thousands of cells that are dying in it right now? You're not. We've taken on these conceptual images, which we've learned, and relating it to this conceptual image we've got. So you start to learn words about two to them. We learn words like I and me. But you can't do much with I or me, so what we do, we add on to it. Events, experiences and conditioning, things that have happened to us, added onto that I and form this conceptual image. Oh, I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fella, not so good, or I'm unhappy, or I'm introverted or extroverted, or, you know, good fella or not so good, people like me, people don't like me, I'm depressed, I'm unhappy. All these concepts are added onto this form to give it some seeming substance, some seeming solidity, something I relate to. But relationship or relativity is dualism. Relativity means more than one, duality. And non-duality is absolutely no non-duality in non-duality. And if there's no duality in non-duality, there can't even be non-duality. It's just the one, again, essence, without no division or no naming or trying to separate it. You can't. You've always been that one essence, patterning, shaping and forming and expressing as everything. Buddhists call this manifestation Maya or illusion. And they say it is a phenomenal manifestation. And when they're talking about the manifestation, they're not excluding you or me. The manifestation is the totality again. And it's a phenomenal manifestation. Grab your dictionary and pick up the dictionary and look up the word phenomena. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So the Maya or illusion is all appearance. You, me and everything else is appearance. We're seeming solid and substantial. But when you put it under a microscope, how solid is that body then? Just the same as the rest of the manifestation. And they have many metaphors to point it out, like the water in a mirage. Drive up to where you think there's a mirage. What happens to the water? It disappears. When was there ever any water there? There wasn't. The blue sea, go down to the ocean and get me a bucket of blue water out the sea if you can. Though it appears to be blue, it's not. The same with the blue sky. Go 30,000 feet up in the plane. Is there blueness coming in the ports of the plane? It's not. The blueness is not till further out, again. But it appears to be blue. The snake in the rope is the big one they point out. In the thing. Fella steps out of a room in a wet night, steps on a piece of wet rope and it rolls under his feet in the darkness. He can't see it and he feels he's trodden on a snake. Forms the goosebumps on him and the hair in his neck stands on end and he feels, imagine the serpent biting him and the fear and the trembling start. Bloke shines a torch on it, put a bit of light on it. It's only a piece of wet rope. Oh shit. There's immediately a sense of relief, but the fear and trembling don't die down for a little while. It takes a little bit longer because it's got a little while to form. And that's what's going on all the time. We're creating these false images, beliefs, what they said to me and I don't like it, or I'm fearful of this and I'm anxious of that. And through the name and the form, the patterning, all our psychological suffering has come about from that. All relative to this me, this conceptual image I've got about self. So you can't do much with I or me, so what we do to it, we add onto it events, experience and conditioning and form this conceptual image, me, Bob, the Australian, the good fellow. And everything is related to that image. I like it. How do you know? Well, I've had it before and it's good. What do we want to do? We want to keep the good things. We don't want to let them go. We want to keep them there. We want it to be good all the time. Not realising it's transient. This manifestation is transient. It doesn't last. It's spontaneous. No time in it. Time's a fiction. So no matter how much you love them, how much you want to keep them there, they're going to die, or they're going to move on, or going to leave you, going to do something, but it's certainly going to change. So you see, it's all transient. And have a look at that body you walked into the room with. You mightn't realise it, but it's transient also. It's changing right now. You haven't got the same body you walked in the room in. There's thousands of cells dying in it right at this moment and being replaced. You don't even know what's going on. But it is. You can only realise if you could go back 5 or 10 years, you'll see they haven't got the same body you got now. Go back to when you were a little child. It's not the same body you had then, so it's transient. It's constantly changing. But the life essence that's going through it hasn't changed. The concepts that form on that intelligence, reasoning and changing, the life essence itself. You can remember something from a childhood, showing it was the same essence that was there then, but the pattern, shape and form has changed all around it. So we've got this constantly changing essence, but we've taken this static idea that we are this separate entity, this individual, this person. And everything becomes relative to this image. So all our problems are problems of relativity, relationship. Relationship or relativity is dualism. So something comes up and you don't like. What do you do with that one you like? The thing's going to move on. We want to keep it there, so what do? We resist it. Trying to keep it there, you resist it. Trying to keep it, hold it there. Any resistance you are in conflict. Resistance is conflict. Any conflict is anxiousness, fear, depression, guilt, shame, remorse, anger, violence, all the rest of that's called conflict. And conflict, that anxiousness, disease, conflict is another name of that is disease. So resistance, conflict and disease is going on in you all the time. When something comes up you don't like, what do? Instead of trying to hang on to this one, you try to get rid of it. Try to force it out with the mind, and you can't. So you resist it from being there. And it's conflict again. So whichever ways it goes, whether you like it or dislike, and you're trying to fix it from the reference point to the relative point of the me, it's always that resistance, conflict and disease. And isn't that what you call karma? Cause and effect. Me is the cause of all your psychological suffering. The conceptual image about yourself, the me, is the cause of all your suffering. Me, I like it or I don't like it, it's good, it's bad, it's pleasant, it's painful, all relative to this image. Now have a look at that. What's cause and effect? Well, you realise that all cause and effect is karma, what they call karma. Karma is cause and effect. There's another name for it. What happens if you ask yourself the question, can there be an effect if I'm not relating to a cause? Or can there? You don't have to be a road scholar to work that out. If you're not relating to a cause, how can the effect form and where can it lodge? So that's the way out of this. Recognise this conceptual image we've got about ourselves is a total fiction. When we form these concepts about it, it becomes the self-centre, the reference point, or the ego. Three different labels we put upon it: my self-centre, my ego, or I'm referring to this conceptual image. So everything becomes relative to that image, which is the fiction. That's what we say here. They tell you in the scriptures you've got to kill this ego, get rid of it, push it under the carpet, get rid of it somewhere. But it'd only be the ego trying to kill the ego, and it doesn't happen through all your meditations, your mantras and all this. You're just keeping it in the mind, keeping that going. But recognise what they point out and say when you look at this, that the ego is a fiction. It never existed. It's a conceptual image that's come about. We've put the idea that this is what I am. Yeah. Investigate it and see whether it's real or not. And we ask ourselves to do that along this line. Everybody is seeing right now and hearing, isn't that right? You say, yes, I'm seeing and I'm hearing. Ask yourself this, does my eye tell me I see? My eye doesn't say, look at this, Bob, look at that. Can yours? Can your eye say anything? No, it can't. But the eye is the instrument through which the seeing is happening. You're seeing through the eye. And it's translated by the instrument, the thought, I see. If you hadn't learnt that word thought, you wouldn't be able to say I see. But it's not a pure seeing anymore, because the thought I see has become the seer. So the thought I see translates the seeing into a thought, into a word. The same with the hearing. You're hearing right now, and if somebody called you loudly in deep sleep, the hearing would have been there. Ask yourself this, is the ear saying to me, listen to this, Bob, this is a good one, or I like to hear that, or I don't want to hear that? My ear can't say anything at all. But it is again the instrument through which the hearing's happening, and translated by the thought I hear. Now the thought I see and the thought I hear are no longer a pure seeing. Remember what we've done with the eye. Instead of seeing in its purity, it's now me, Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, thinks it has the capacity of seeing. The same with the hearing. This conceptual image, this capacity of me, Bob, thinks it has the capacity of hearing. Has the capacity of thinking, tasting, touching, smelling, breathing. A conceptual image. Hasn't got any substance or any independent nature. This is what we've believed in and continue to believe in, taken it to be real. It's me, I'm seeing, it's me that's hearing, it's me that's tasting, it's me that's touching, smelling. The me that's doing everything. And what we've done is limited ourselves into this conceptual image. Got the pattern, shape and form, the image we've got of ourselves, and we've tied ourselves. We've got the cage of concepts which we're living in. And look at this thing you call mind, the way it functions. It's a vibration the same as everything else. See the way you think. And you realise you're always thinking dualistically in the pairs of opposites. I like it, I don't like it. That's good, it's bad. I'm happy, I'm sad, pleasant, painful, positive, negative. You see, it's always functioning in the interrelated opposites in a vibration, and the boundaries we put on it, good, bad, pleasant, painful, with those words, we've put boundaries on that limitless, pure essence, and caged ourselves in these conceptual boundaries. No wonder we're unhappy. And Wei said that years ago. He says, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. And there isn't one. When you investigate and see for yourself there isn't one, what necessity is there to be unhappy then? If you're not relating to something fearful and making you unhappy. I lost a sister yesterday. She died. I'm not unhappy. Sorry to see her go, and it's a loss. But what's the good of grieving about it? Not going to bring her back. I've lost a lot of other people over the years too. And one of these days this pattern's go. And I might even be able to say it then. So it won't matter. So that's what we want to do. You've got to look at this. The seeing, the hearing, everything's happening, and the thought I see comes up. But can that thought I see? Can a thought see? Close your eyes, look around the room and see what things you can see in the room with your eyes closed. And all you'll see with your eyes closed is the darkness behind your lids or whatever there. But you won't see anything. So the eye's not telling you I see, the ear's not telling you I hear, the thought I see cannot see. Put your hands over your ears and see what you can hear with the thought. The thought I hear can't hear. Anybody unaware in this room right now? No. If you're not unaware, you must be aware. So the thought I am aware, you weren't thinking I'm aware when I just asked you that question, but the awareness, the thought I am aware is not your awareness. We think we choose our thoughts. Why would you ever have an unhappy or a miserable thought if you choose it? Would you want to be unhappy if you could choose the thought? Would you want to be fearful? Or you're not. So you see this thought up entity, this ego, can't do anything at all of its own. It has no substance, has no independent nature. Then you can understand when I say I'm not talking to anybody, or I can't teach you anything, or I can't tell you anything. How can I tell a conceptual image? And a good analogy for it, or not really, is look at that mirror at the end of the room. What do you see in it? You'll say, I see reflections in it. You can't say they're not there. But go up and try and grab a reflection out of the mirror. What will you grab? You'll just grab the mirror, the glass. So you can't say they're not there, but you can't say they are there. You just imagine. Just the same with all these other things. The mirror is a poor analogy because the mirror needs something outside to reflect itself. The difference with this is that everything was within that basic silence and stillness, emptiness, is pattern, shapes and forms appearing in that. Things appearing in it. But you can't say these things are not there. But there again, you can't say they are there. And can you separate them from them? You think this body's separate? But is it? What's the body made up of? Made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water and space. Separate yourself from the air if you can. Stop breathing. Separate yourself from the body temperature, the fire. Take the water out of your body. See how long you last without any water. It's 80% water. Take all the organs out of your body. See how you last without the air, the water, the fire, the space. You can't separate yourself from those elements. So you realise, what are you? Are the way the elements are patterning, shaping and forming, or are you the essence of the elements? The same essence that's patterning, shaping and forming this manifestation. The one life or the one essence. Only the one. And you know that too also. Didn't Christ tell you, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life? He wasn't talking about himself as people think. He was talking about that sense of presence that expresses or translates through the mind as the thought I am. That's the way to go. Come back to that sense of presence. This is Nisargadatta will tell you. Come back to the I amness. Stay with that sense of presence. Anybody who's not present right now or not existing right now, so that's the sat. Anyone who's not conscious right now, so that's the sit. Anyone who's not happy to be right now, that's an nanda. Satchitananda. The nama rupa, you can drop the labels of that. You are that Satchitananda, being, knowing and loving to be. You're already that. Always have been and always will be. That's what we point out. And I ask you to look along those lines to see for yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you, but they can assist you by something you're stuck with, point it out. And there's other people that can express this, have understood this the same as I do. Might point to it in different words, different ways. But each way can take you home if you follow it through, as long as they're not pointing to bullshit, but as they point you to the truth, it'll set you free. I'll give you a hand. But see it, the main thing is to see it for yourself. So it's open for discussion and don't be hesitant to ask any questions. You know, don't have the concept of what will they think of me if I say this or ask this. Who gives a damn what they think of you? Because what they think of you is their concept they've got about you. And you'll have a concept about them. Everybody will have a concept about you in this room, so already, without you, it doesn't matter what you say or what you don't say, they've still formed that concept. And you'll have a concept about everybody in this room, whether they know it or not. And you'll have a concept about yourself. Which concept would be right? And when you realise that any concept is just a mental construct made up of words labelled, none of them are right. From that point of view, whoever can be superior to you without a concept? Whoever can be inferior to you without a concept? And what would you want of the other person without a concept? Nothing at all. So there's a way out, so away you go. You've got a bit of time, plenty of time today, so we won't have to go for an hour over it afterwards.
The other morning I was sitting at the breakfast table. Seems to be the place where things come up in the morning, and so this stuff just came up, so I wrote it down. There is only consciousness itself. Objects appear and disappear. We're taught from a young child to label and name them. We're also told our name or label. All our problems are problems of relationship to that label or name when it causes us dis-ease, like I'm inferior, I'm not good enough, I'm superior and others are fools, I'm unlovable, I'm inadequate, etc., etc. The mind is very clunky, it only works relatively. You, me, pleasure, pain, yesterday, tomorrow, desire, feeling. Then the mind, which we identify with and or relate to in a story about me, constantly takes ownership of every little thing that happens to this alleged me and creates either a story it likes or doesn't like. For instance, I like him, I don't like him, he likes me, he doesn't like me, I resent him, he resents me, he doesn't love me, he's rejecting me, I'm fearful, I'm not good enough. Or on another day, he's not smart enough, I'm not smart enough, etc., etc. But ask yourself, whatever the scenario, who is all this story about? Who is this alleged me? Is it not just a story which is appearing on consciousness about an objective me? And is the image of something ever the real object? Look for where that me begins. I've never been able to find it in this actual moment, because the me is a memory I have about myself that I then anticipate and imagine into the future.
There's a spiel in the future as well.
Yes.
You ever thought of being a writer?
That just came up one morning at breakfast, so I wrote it in my phone.
Yeah, you're going to start writing a book.
Yes. And be careful what you have for breakfast.
Special Jane, special case. Yeah, I thought you.
Julia says, "Wow, Jane."
So there it is.
We can go home now.
She's beyond the need for further help. She comes here to share. Out of love and gratitude for Bob and love and gratitude for all of you.
Well, I was sitting at home yesterday and it struck me that what you were saying before, that the hearing is, and it was particularly the hearing, that it was just happening. And then I, just like you just said before, cover your ears, I found myself doing that too yesterday. And then there were no sounds other than what was inside of my hand. And then it struck me that, wow, there's just this, it's a miracle really, it's just hearing. And so, I was quite satisfied with that. And then just before you added to that awareness is happening automatically, that there's no me filtering the awareness. And I think that's the next frontier for my inquiry.
Well, when that hearing, how would you know that you weren't hearing with your ears stopped if the awareness wasn't there?
So
See, when you put your hand over your ears and say the hearing was there, and the seeing, how would you know that was there if the awareness wasn't there? That awareness was there all the time. Not unaware, you weren't unaware. You didn't block, when you brought out of the hearing and the seeing, but you didn't block out the livingness, did you? The life essence.
See, awareness is actually a component already included in all the senses. Like seeing, how would you know there is a seeing? There is a knowing about the seeing. Like whatever you see, you know because you see it. So the knowing is part of the seeing. The knowing, the awareness is invisible. It's not like you can distinguish between seeing and hearing. But both of them have this underlying component, which is awareness, which is knowing. Whatever I see, well, yeah, I know I see it. Otherwise, there is no seeing. So knowing is kind of included. And same with hearing. So hearing is like, it is like a knowing channeled through different senses. Channeled through the eyes, it appears as sceneries and as the process of seeing. Channeled through the ears, it appears as sounds and the process of hearing. But it is the same knowing, because if there is a hearing and there is no knowing, there is no hearing, really. I mean, you can't even say there is a hearing. So if there is a hearing, obviously, it is already being known. So the awareness it doesn't even need to be recognized as something happening as automatically as seeing and hearing, because once the seeing and hearing is recognized, awareness is already for granted. See how it is for granted. Everything you ever experience, you know. You experienced it. There is a knowing, otherwise you wouldn't even be able to acknowledge there was experience. So the very fact that you can acknowledge experiencing, it already affirms the knowing of it, the awareness. It's like awareness of being. You can't say you are not. If you would try and not be, or if you would try not to be aware of your being, really there is no being. Because awareness is the background, is the pre-sensory whatever, the nothing, the pre-sensory intelligent nothing. Cognizing emptiness.
It's like the mirror.
Yeah.
It's like the mirror. As Bob was saying, everything appears upon the mirror.
That's right.
It's like what Bob was talking about before, which is what you were talking about, or seeing, or coming to see. Can a thought actually see? And you can check that out for yourself. No, a thought can't see. Can a thought actually hear? And again, you can check that out for yourself. No, a thought doesn't hear, is here. Yeah? So just take it to the next, the very next step. Can a thought be aware?
Yeah.
Conundrum.
Like really,
Yeah.
can a thought be aware? Thought, all a thought is only and ever a description.
Yeah.
Only. It's only a description of something.
Yeah.
And the problem is we take the description to be the real. We take the description to be the actual. We take the description to be reality. And when we do that, a me is formed. And here I am, and here's me and my reality. And what tells you that? Thoughts. We take the thoughts to be real. We take the thoughts to be reality as such. But a thought can't do shit. Really can't.
Without that presence that you are to appear upon.
Can you see? Yeah?
Bob,
So-
did you want to say something?
I say I wish it could. Save me taking several trips.
You are rough.
Oh, I need to go to the toilet. Go on, thought. Off you go.
Off you go. Tell us some details.
Hmm?
Tell us some more details about it.
I think we've got a question
You wanna-
over here.
Question. Oh, good.
Looks like a man.
So understanding that the awareness is it. There is no me. There's just awareness.
Mm.
Awareness is everything else, too.
Yes.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
without,
Yeah.
so I'm looking at awareness.
Yeah.
As well. Like without awareness, there is nothing.
Yeah.
There is only awareness. So everything is awareness, which then, so I am that.
That's right.
yeah.
That's
Exactly.
exactly right.
Beauty.
It eliminates the individual.
Mm.
This is all about eliminating the so-called isolated individual.
That's right. Or the me or the ego.
So we come in and we go, yeah, I'm not thoughts, I'm not the body, I'm not the feeling, I'm not the sensation, I'm not, to eventually arrive at a place where I'm all of that and everything else as well.
And arrive at the place you never left.
And that's where Sat, Chit and Ananda becomes one.
Yes.
Sat is existence. You're aware of it. There's an awareness of existence there. Chit is consciousness. You're not unconscious, so you're aware of being conscious. And you're happy to be. And Ananda bliss. It's the one essence, not three things, but it's all the one.
Everything is pointing to it.
Yeah.
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 It's all taking place in that, on that, or seeming on what we call awareness. But you can't describe or postulate or think of what awareness is. It's just a label.
Mm. And that includes the whole duality, like duality of form and emptiness, of day and night. Like you can say, okay, I'm looking at awareness and you're looking at Bob and you're overlooking the space. No, space is included. Everything's included, and any idea that we form or conceptual image that we form about what the awareness is or what the being is, that's also included. The Satchitananda, whatever, that's also included. Like nothing's excluded. If it's one, there is nothing that can be taken away or added to it.
That's right.
It's really too simple for the mind, because mind, the way mind functions, it functions in the duality. Like there is an object and there is a space. Or there is a sound and there is a silence. So all that duality is included. It is part of the one before mind starts dividing it.
You need one to see the other,
Yeah.
in a sense. But it's all included in that too.
Mm.
So the answer to if the tree falls over in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, it hasn't actually happened. You need awareness to answer, to even.
Know about
Yeah,
it.
you can easily say it this way.
I don't know, it's just
Mm.
my mind got involved there.
Yeah.
The past.
What else?
And then at the same time, it happened already in your imagination, and all of it is imagination. So the answer is a yes and no, and the best places, I don't know. I don't care.
Ultimately, there's no tree, there's no forest, and there's no sound.
Without memory, what is there?
Great question.
Yes.
So good. That's such a great question to ponder.
And you know the answer, because when you take certain mind-altering substances that actually stop the memorizing.
Of course not.
Not today.
No, you pick up your halo, it's choking you.
Sorry, Kat.
Oh yeah, if you didn't, I'm really sorry for you, because it's a quite a good experience. So you could trust me then. Also, the mind is off when you sleep.
So what happens, Kat, when you do?
When the mind
Stop the
is
memory?
off, you don't disappear. Bob often says that when you stop thinking, when you pause the thought, did you disappear? You didn't. Did you stop breathing? You didn't. You still exist, and the thought is paused, which means mind processing is paused for a moment. The whole computing and organizing is paused. There is no memory. There is no mind. And then life still appears as it does. In a mind, I'm meaning the conceptualizing, the mind that is labeling things. When you stop labeling, the world still appears. Although you can switch off the mind into the point where the world disappears when you go to sleep. Because then the senses, the eyes, the ears are also operated by the mind. When the mind stops operating the senses, you basically can't recognize the pictures, the images that you are seeing. They make no sense. So at that point, there is only acute awareness of being and nothing else.
And that's good.
And if during the sleep, the memory doesn't work, so that acute awareness of being is not recorded. So you wake up and you don't even remember that acute awareness of being.
But
That's
if you
what
take
happens with no
something-
memory.
If you take something and it gets rid of the memories, something, and then you come off it, you can still remember what it's like to be without a memory.
Yeah, to a certain extent, you can't really remember, because the way it actually happens, you slowly forget everything. Like there is a herb, very healthy herb called salvia, but there is one particular part of the salvia that doesn't really, that it actually wipes off the memory for a minute, maybe a minute. And you slowly see how you forget a language, because this is the language that creates the reality. The recognition and the labeling. And then slowly you lose identification. The being never goes away, but you lose identification with the body, with the mind, all the concepts you have about yourself, concepts you have about the world. So basically, the world slowly disappears. You may still see a bits of walls or ceiling, but you don't know what they are anymore. So very slowly they actually wipe off. And then there is nothing, but there is an awareness of being. And slowly, then, after a minute, because it's just a gentle little flower, little plant, it comes back. So what can you remember about having no memory? Of course, nothing. You can only remember when the memory is fading slowly. And I don't recommend the plant, although it apparently doesn't have side effects, but I don't know if it's legal in this country. You can just trust me that when memory is fading, that's what happens. You can probably observe it as you go to sleep. Like slowly, you kind of disengage with the mind, and then eventually you just drift off to the sleep. And what do you remember when there is no dreaming? Nothing. And does it really matter? Because this moment is what matters. The theory, what happens when the memory is off or when the mind is off, is beautiful to contemplate and ponder and read and study for a while if we really want to distract ourselves from this moment. Because this moment is actually available right now, and it could be really lived fully, whether the memory is there or is not. Because the memory, when recognized for what it is a useful instrument. You know, like, okay, memorizing is going, okay, labeling is going on, and then nobody takes it on board. So it's actually nothing to worry about. Story is going on, nobody takes it on board. So it is It is, curious phenomena, what, as you said, what the memory, what the role it plays.
Yeah, I think that is my
It's-
question.
Yeah.
So what is its function? And I can see from what you're saying, it's the memory that has interferes with presence and bases the identification of presence through the memory. But without that, there's unmodified presence. But you're just saying that it's useful, and I think that's where I'm.
It's a tool of expression.
Yeah.
Like imagine if you did not have the language, if you did not create the world of objects and meanings and stories, and you just there is nothing to express through. Like story is a beautiful means of expression. So many different stories in every single thought. See, your thought about Bob's thought about his sister today brought up the real person in her life that just died, that ended yesterday.
Yeah.
That one thought holds the whole universe. So why would consciousness want to create the mechanism through which it expresses as millions of universes every moment? Like why they call God creator? Why is he so creative that every thought, and you could not possibly have that thought, and Bob could not have that thought if not for the language, if he didn't have the image of the sister, if he didn't have the label, because that's where the memory goes. When to actually be able to store information, you have to have something that represents it. You have to have symbol that represents it. And then this symbol is translated to whatever electric signal or whatever it is. But even the computer, to actually have store the information, it needs the language. And the language can be 0101, whatever the language is. So without the language, there is no memory. Without the memory, there is no possibility to explore and express as the boundless, limitless amount of universes in every single image.
Right.
And it all appears
Like the duality that we were talking about the other day. It's through that's right.
Speak up, say it, tell
No.
it. No? No? You want to tell it, Terry?
Well, it's just it's seeing the personalised self, which is contained in memory. There's a memory of how to get from here today home. That has nothing to do with the personalised entity. Zero to do with the personalised entity. So thoughts are extraordinarily creative. They're beautiful. I mean, they're divine. They are. Where we get into trouble is when the thoughts manifest or create or seem to create a personalised single identity. That's when we get into trouble.
which is the me.
Yeah. So it's seeing that it's not about eliminating all thoughts.
No.
I've just got to become a zombie, and awakening is about zero thoughts. Fuck, man, they'd lock you up. Like really, you'd just fucking sit there. There'd be nothing going on. So, see, I often refer to thoughts as the sixth sense. So there's seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Everyone talks about the five senses. The sixth sense is the thinking process. Thought. That's the creative process. It gives us the capacity to reason. We can create a bloody aircraft, for God's sake, and fly like a bird. Wow. So it's extraordinarily creative. Extraordinarily creative. It's beautiful.
And
Art,
useful.
music. Just, it's beautiful.
Bob
Yeah.
That sixth sense is intuitive sense.
Yeah.
One intuition to go. You get all of the words too. All the words that you ever speak or ever act on are always in the moment. And so we're thinking of cognising everything. So seemingly lose sight of that, what needs to happen to recognise it. And you can only recognise it again in the moment. Remind, memory. Bring it back into mind. Remember. It's all seemingly lost for the moment to bring it back, and it comes up spontaneously again in the moment. So it's all a spontaneous, natural functioning, effortless.
And it's also okay to have a memory of yourself. It's okay to have a memory of other people. And it's only when it creates conflict or dis-ease that it creates separation, alleged separation. There isn't really any, but it's only when that me names and claims everything that creates the problems.
Seemingly, but it can't.
No.
Belief can never do anything.
That's right. That's right.
The energy of belief goes into the fact that we've got it there.
Yeah, the energy of belief is like we are
People
believing to existence.
People say they can't get rid of the me, there never was one.
So then thought, being the sixth sense as you put it, and intuition is where the inspiration comes through.
Totally.
And in that way it's of course very useful.
Yeah.
So it's a functioning.
Yeah.
Okay.
And becomes a problem when me claims ownership of it. He goes, oh, that's not good enough, I could have done that better. Whatever the inspiration is.
Yeah.
If me claims ownership of that, it'll either go, fuck, I'm great, like I'm so great, or could have done that better.
Yeah, so it's either way it's a me thing. It's claiming ownership, it's naming and claiming. It's either naming it and saying it's fantastic, isn't that great, aren't I great? Or it's naming and claiming it and saying it's not good enough, like I was saying before.
And awareness is there through all of it.
Yeah,
Being aware of that.
Yeah, that's right.
That's another way of putting such an end. Being, knowing, loving, or awareness of being, yes, bliss. Or have an affectionate awareness of being. A little bit warm towards yourself, don't beat yourself up.
Give it a wink and a nod.
A little smile, I know you're there.
I can see you in there. I feel you in there.
I think that another perhaps important point to bring up is, and I'll pose it as a question, can there be duality without a thought?
Definitely not a label duality.
No.
That's the same as what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it. What in a different way, that way might be, understand it better than
Yet, those thoughts that just happen, that we're not doing, functions in the pairs of opposites, functions in duality, and gives the capacity for that non-dual or that singularity to turn, wake up and see itself, know itself. Without that seeming duality, that process could never happen. Just like a dog can't become enlightened, or a tree can't become enlightened, or a cloud can't become enlightened. I hate using that word enlightened, but you know what I mean. Yeah? Can't wake up.
Or a butterfly can't be a butterfly without a cocoon.
Yeah. So
It's a good analogy, I like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty brilliant.
So you know, it's a sticking point to say that there's no such thing as duality is actually true. But at the same time, it can't be denied that that process seems to happen. It seems to happen. But the primary reason for that is what Kat was touching on, is for experience's sake. So that singularity, if you like, can experience itself through through a myriad of different things, shapes and forms. Mm.
It does, and of course, it's all phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All appearance.
Yeah. That, yeah. Which brings it back to, can there be duality without thought?
You've got to get lost to find your way back, so to speak.
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like Kat said it a couple of times the last few minutes. You know, if we don't go to sleep and dream, there's no chance of waking up.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
but it's not
I like
us.
that.
It's not us, or there's not a me here that's chosen to dream, and then at some point gets sick of the dream, and then me goes, oh, now I'm going to find my way back, and me is going to wake up. That's so off the mark. Yeah. Like my personalised me, if you like, I've nothing to do with it. Zero to do with it. Conditioning, this is just how I manifest. You know, especially the hands, it drives people nuts, I know it does, but anyway.
Who cares?
Yeah, that's what happens. Yes. But this is how this form functions, and me, has absolutely zip to do with it.
No doer.
No doer. No.
Even the supposed me that's here gets manifested. There's no me here doing it. Like me doing a me. You know.
Got to be careful of that. I get a little bit caught up in watching there's no doing. I'm watching there's no
Yeah.
and I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So there's still an I watching me not doing it.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's a little bit.
You can catch yourself too there when I heard you say it before, when you say that you're looking at awareness.
That's right.
You are aware.
You are aware.
You can't look at it.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Because that's
You
just
are.
the mind knowing in
You
a
are that.
subtle way.
And you know it. That there's a knowing of it, not a seeing of it, you know, otherwise it'd be objective.
Yeah,
There's a knowing of the subjectivity as such.
You have the answer from Peggy, who says that no thing exists regardless of thought.
That's right, Peggy. No thing.
Very quick to claim like that.
That's what the mind does. Creates
That's its
things.
nature.
It
That's its
creates
nature.
things,
Mm.
which with words and with labels.
Mm.
That's a tree. We've just created a tree, but all we've got is a concept and a word and a description of something. Even to say it's something, we use words and description and thoughts and concepts to say it's a thing. And without any of that, if none of that is actually taking place, if none of those thoughts, like if none of that is taking place, there is no duality, and I just am. No separation, no idea of being separate, no idea of being isolated, just in the pure, absolute beingness, which is always there. Kat uses a term, and I love it, blanketed with a concept of me. And that blanket is nothing but thoughts. Zip, nothing else. It's nothing else.
Yeah.
The whole me construct is nothing but thought.
Yeah.
Tess touched on it before, or made the inquiry, well, if there's no memory, who or what am I now? Like, who am I? What's important to see there is that the whole me, the whole construct of the me, is nothing but memory.
That's
I've
right.
used the terminology
The mind
before.
is the me.
I've said before, you know, if we're able to create amnesia in the room and wipe out everybody's memory completely. So you didn't even recognise your face in the mirror. Didn't even know, right? If we wiped it out completely, where does everyone's me go? Where is it then? Like, that's just such a profound pointer in terms of trying to find, because it's about self-discovery, self-inquiry. Who am I? Yeah. So we need to see what we're not first, because what we're identifying with is not actually who and what we are.
That's exactly
So we need to first discover what we're not. And in the process of doing that, the closest I ever got when I was looking, the closest I ever got when I was trying to find the me, was to say, I am memory. That's the closest I got. I saw that my whole construct, everything about this so-called personalised self, was all based on a memory only. And if we could wipe that memory out, that concept, that the me, would completely disappear. However, I would still be. I would still be. There would be a beingness here. So the me can't exist without that beingness.
That's right.
Okay? But the beingness absolutely can exist without that me. So,
It's like Kat said,
Yeah,
it's a
That's
blanket.
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Redundant
Just the
completely.
simplicity of that.
Mm.
So here's one I often contemplate, people with dementia. I often wonder where they are, where their awareness is, their consciousness. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the beingness and the aliveness is still there.
Sure.
Okay? There's just... Look, the truth is, I don't actually know.
Of course you don't.
Right? I don't actually
I know you
know.
don't.
Because I haven't, I haven't
You
experienced
haven't
it.
been in that experience.
Really, really don't know. But the beingness and the aliveness is still there. And it would only be us here, from this perspective, that would have a judgment about that. Or what is that? Or what is that like? Or
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I realise that what I'm sort of contemplate sometimes, they could be more in presence than what we are.
yeah, who knows?
Who
Depends
knows?
how worried they are
Mm.
about the memory loss.
That's right. Let's say it's quite severe memory loss.
Mm.
And often it's very short term, so they're not even able to go back a few minutes and remember so
Yeah.
they could be really in presence.
They could also be very depressed.
Mm.
I've seen both.
Mm.
Yes.
When they're on the way to, my step-grandmother died of, complications, but she had dementia, and it was interesting when she was actually losing her mind, losing the grip, she could see it initially.
Initially.
So initially it was quite confronting, you know, and she'd find herself in places she didn't know how she got there, and they'd be places she'd been going all her life. And people would find her and bring her home, and that was really confronting and scary for her.
Mm.
But once she really lost it, she was very happy. she appeared to be very happy and totally in the moment and quite joyful, joyful.
Beautiful.
But it was sort of the journey to memory, total memory loss that was the scary bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are stages in depression.
Stages.
Dementia, yeah.
Dementia. Yes. Depression's one of them.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Anxiety, even aggression. They go through the phase of being
Yes.
aggressive.
Yes, she did. Yeah, she did. Sort of switch from, a childlike joy to anger really easily.
Yeah, it's funny actually when Terry was talking about labeling things. Like we label the tree and right away we think we know what it is. Or we label dementia and we think we know what it is. Really, as Terry also said, we have no idea. We have no idea what the tree is. We have no idea what dementia is. We only label things out of fear, because when I say, okay, it's tree, it's not going to attack me, it's safe, it's all right, now I know what it is. And I completely overlook the mysteriousness of it. I overlooked that this is a home for probably millions of bugs and bacteria and little animals, and the shade for other animals, and there is a life going on, like Bob often says. There is just this life force growing the roots there and taking the juices out of, and doing it with amazing, incredible intelligence, creating those leaves, knowing when to cut off the sap and let go of the leaves. Is absolutely beautiful universe just showing up and is dancing in the wind. And we just, tree or oak tree or whatever the tree. And now I know what it is. Like, I don't have a clue what anything is. Anything. The labels are really wonderful way, is part of functioning, which makes things easy. It simplifies life, so we can do the operations on the labels in a symbolic language. We can kind of sum and design the airplanes, like Terry says, and stuff like this. Beautiful. But knowing that we are operating on labels and symbols and not completely cutting off the mystery of life, the love of that, the amazement of that, is being back to the childlike state, when you actually see things fresh and new without knowing what they are, and a label comes up. Thank you. Very functional, great. But that's not what it is. The chair is not the word, the 4 letters or anything. The chair is the whole universe. To create that chair, they were people that were farming rice or whatever, and they were eating it, and the sun was shining on it, and they become strong, and they have children who went to the factories, they cut the tree, they created the cotton to actually make a cover. The whole universe contributed to creation of that little thing that we later on label, chair, nothing important. Now let's go to a drama.
That was gorgeous. We get so caught up with our personalised self that we miss
all that
the beauty.
Creation.
We miss it. That was beautiful, Kat.
Yeah,
a tree. Yeah, it's a tree. Oh my God, it's so much more than a tree. So much more than a tree. But that applies to everything. Like everything. I get awestruck at just at the moon. I look at the moon and go, oh, it's like I've never seen it before. It really is. Like, there's so much that I just took for granted. I thought, I know all this shit, you know. It's whatever. Oh my God. You know.
Because you're seeing it fresh and new without a story.
Well,
without a label.
What I was doing, I was seeing everything with word, with the concept, with the description, not the actual.
Bob used to say years ago, walk down the street and observe how the mind wants to label everything.
Yeah.
You know, and once you see that, you're watching without naming. Watching without naming. Wow, you know.
It's the closest I can get to describing it. It's childlike wonderment.
Well, that's what Christ said. He said, "Become like a little child." That's what he meant. Don't you think, Bob?
Yeah. It's beautiful. Like.
Look at Bob, his face is like a baby.
And his mind is like a devil.
Yours! On a good day.
Evil.
Yeah. Julia says, can't have memory without me. And she's giving you a laugh. That's for you, Terry. And I wish the world could see this.
The world doesn't have to see it, Julia. You just have to see it.
Well.
That's it.
Yes.
That's all. No one else needs to see it.
That's true.
No one else.
Your description of the tree and the aliveness really helps to remind me of the life beyond the words, the living presence that actually is, and that the word, traps me, and just just traps everything, cuts the life force off.
Limits everything.
See yourself this way.
Yeah.
You will be mind blown. There
Yeah.
will be no space for shame, guilt, or anything else.
Yeah.
It's
Watch it with the body.
I noticed it with a client the other day who cuts himself off when he talks, and he just starts thinking and talking and expressing himself, and then he cuts it off.
Uh-huh.
And then it was good to encourage him to continue, to allow himself to, you know, grow like the tree, to keep going
Yeah.
and see what needed to be felt.
Totally.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, resist nothing.
Resist nothing.
Still have a few minutes. How about you guys? You understand Bob properly and
Yeah,
good.
listen to his talks
Oh, you did. Okay.
and then do it.
You have questions or sharing? Maybe something to add, maybe something he's not highlighting enough.
So how do we come to that stage where Bob is in
Yeah.
that total?
Good question. How do they get there to the place of absolute certainty of your own being? Go for it. Tell us.
Well,
give it to her, Bob.
Anyone who's listening.
I'll shut off. I was just having a spell and shut off, so I have to crank it up again.
How do you realize that?
Well,
Natural.
are you unaware right now?
You are or you're not? Are you unaware right
Are you unconscious? No, you're conscious.
Must be
Okay.
conscious. Are you existing right now?
Mhm.
And you're happy to be? Well, you are that Satchitananda existence consciousness being, or pure being. Can you negate your beingness? Put the label, call God the Supreme Being, you call yourself a human being. Take the label Supreme off, take the label human off, what's there? Being. So you're there.
That's it.
So you're already that. If you think you're not, it is probably a story that you have in your mind.
The habit is we're adding concepts onto it all the time. But the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. And the great perfection is just the same as the absolute. What can you add to the absolute? Not the least, smallest thing. It wouldn't be absolute if you could. What can you take away from it? Not the smallest thing again. Wouldn't be the. So you must be the absolute already. We've lost sight of it, and that's the only problem. We've lost sight of our true nature and taken on the belief that we're other than that. And your dictionary of belief is an unquestioned acceptance in the absence of reason, acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. So if you ask yourself, who's this happening to? It's happening to me. Is there a me? Investigate, have a look, and realise it's all taking place in that beingness. You haven't moved away from that. And from that point you must renew always been there and ever been there, even though you've had the belief it was otherwise. Nothing to become, nowhere to go, nothing to see, nothing to do. But what happened just now? You took another breath, your heart expanded, cells being replaced in your body. Who was doing it? Life itself. You are that life. That's what the Sagadatta tells you. There is only life. There is no body that lives a life. Life lives on life. Out of life, more life comes.
Also, there is a possibility, because some people actually need some alone time with Bob and they can see it clearer. It happened with Jane and Terry and myself and many others. So you could actually call him and schedule one-on-one appointment when it's just you and him. You don't have to worry about what people will think of what you say or your questions. And it's, yeah, you can hear him better.
Yes.
You
Where's that
sit closer.
amplifier I gave you?
What is it?
Where's that speaker I gave you?
Yeah, it the humming from the back is actually louder than amplification.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be any humming.
And it's feeding
There
back
is.
and
Yeah, we'll show you in a minute
Ah,
when we
okay.
stop.
we weren't able
Yeah.
to remove the tops either for
Mhm.
some reason. I know there's anyway.
Yes, I'll give you a card. There is also the address is on the website, but I'll give you a card, and yeah, it's very worth it.
Can we call any time or?
You can try. He may be outside, and then you won't be able to talk to him. But if you can agree the time and the hour, and he will be there waiting.
But you can try.
On the phone, on the Skype, or one-on-one just at home. But yeah, the phone is ringing many times a day. And Bob, even if I just serve him a nice warm meal, he will leave the food and go and help someone, because this is the priority. If there is someone on the other side of the world suffering and the phone rings, he will drop everything and he will pick up this phone. So he's there really totally at service, and for last 40 few years. So he's there. And I hope he'll be there forever, but he's there now.
He's always been there.
Yeah.
Had a different pattern, shape and form then. I might have been an arsehole at one time.
Might have been.
No.
Rough!
And if he wasn't an asshole, he would not be as good and effective and efficient in helping people who are completely lost in that ego. He was a violent asshole at some point, and that's why he knows what to wake up from. He knows, and he is a living proof of possibility to move beyond the identification and the suffering, the personal suffering.
Habits can be broken, living proof of that.
It creates beautiful empathy too.
And also non-judgment, because he's done so many things that is the last one to judge you for whatever your little sins are, which are not yours anyway, because you're not the doer.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. You got it.
Okay.
Time, gentlemen, please.
And ladies.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Always remember, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Always a two. There's no one that's going to get more than the other.
He wouldn't have no one to speak if nobody shows up, and he's not speaking. It's the consciousness to consciousness talk. So you are you are his equals, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kat.